comes among us as a pillar of fire, as something that changes our hearts. That is the same God that said, let there be light, and there was light. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Now, in the beginning, God dwelled alone with His attributes, as I spoke of this morning. That's His thoughts. There was nothing. Just God alone. But He had thoughts. Just like a great architect can sit down in his mind and draw out what he thinks he's going to build, create. Now, he cannot create. He can take something that's been created and make it in a different form, because God's the only one can create. But he gets in his mind what he's going to do. And that's his thoughts. That's his desires. Now it's a thought. And then he speaks it, and it's a word then. And a word is a thought. When it's expressed, it's a word. A thought expressed is a word. But it has to be a thought first. So it's God's attributes then. It becomes a thought, then a word. Notice, those who have tonight eternal life was with Him and in Him and His thinking before there ever was an angel, star, cherubim, or anything else. That's eternal. And if you have eternal life, you always was. Not your being here, but the shape and form that the infinite God. And if He isn't infinite, He isn't God. God has to be infinite. We're finite. He's infinite. And He was omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. If He isn't, then He can't be God. Knows all things, all places, because of His omnipresent, omniscient makes Him omnipresent. He is a being. He's not like the wind. He is a being. He dwells in a house. But being omniscient, knowing all things, makes Him omnipresent. Amen. Because He knows everything is going on. There can't be a flea bat its eyes but what He knowed it. And He knowed it before there was a world. How many times it bat its eyes and how much talent it had in it. Before there ever was a world. That is infinite. If we can't comprehend it in our minds. But that's God. God, infinite. And remember, you, your eyes, your statue, whatever you was, you were in His thinking at the beginning. And the only thing that you are is expression, word. After He thought it, He spoke it, and here you are. Amen. If it isn't, if you wasn't in His thinking, there's no way at all for you ever to be there. For He is the one that gives eternal life. You remember how we read the Scriptures? Not him that willeth or him that runneth, but God. And that His predestination might stand true. He could choose before any time. God's sovereign in His choosing. Did you know that? God's sovereign. Who was back there to tell Him a better way to make the world? Who would dare to tell Him He's run His business wrong? Even the very word itself, very sovereign. Even the revelation is sovereign. He reveals to whom He will reveal. The very revelation itself is sovereign in God. That's how people pound at things and jump at things and hit at things, not knowing what they're doing. God is sovereign in His works. Amen. Now, we find Him at the beginning, His attributes. And now you were with Him then. Then is when the book of life comes into view. Now we read over here in Revelations, the 13th chapter, the 8th verse, that the beast that comes upon the earth in these last days will deceive all those people on the earth whose names were not written in the Lamb's book of life before the foundation of the world. Think of it. Before Jesus was ever born, 4,000 years before He came on earth, and several thousand years before you come on earth, Jesus, in God's mind, died for the sins of the world, and the book of life was made, and your name was put on that book of life before the foundation of the world. That's the Bible truth. See? Your name was ordained of God and placed on the book of life before the foundation of the world. You were there in His attributes. You don't remember it? No. Because you're just a part of His life. You are a part of God when you become a son or a daughter of God, just as you are a part of your earthly father. Right. You are the male carries the hemoglobin, the blood. And when that has gone into egg, then you become a part of your father, and your mother is a part of your father also. So you're all a part of your father. Glory. That lets the denomination out altogether.
Amen.
Certainly does. God and all, the only place. Notice now, His attribute. Then the attribute was first God. The thought, the attribute itself, all in one, without being expressed. Then when He expressed, secondarily, He became then the Word. And then the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. St. John, the first chapter and the first verse. Notice, this is in the beginning, but before the eternal. Notice, in the beginning was the Word. When the time began, it was Word. But before it was Word, it was attribute, a thought. Then it was expressed. In the beginning was the expression, the Word. Now we're getting where Melchizedek is. That's this mysterious person. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Amen. And then the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Hold that there now. Notice. His first being was Spirit, God, supernatural. All right? The great eternal. Second, He began to form Himself towards flesh in a theophany, it's called. The Word, a body. This then is the state He was in when He met Abraham. It was called Melchizedek. He was in the form of theophany. I will get to that and prove it in a few minutes, the Lord willing. He was the Word. A theophany is something that you could not see. It could be right here now. Yet, you cannot see it. It's just like television. That's in another dimension. Television, people are moving right through this room now singing. There's colors also. But the eye is only subject to the five senses. Your whole being is only subject to five senses, rather. And you are only subject to what the sight has been limited to see. But there is another dimension that can be seen by a transformation by television. Now, television does not manufacture a picture. A television only channels it into a circuit. And then the television screen picks it up. But the picture's there to begin with. Yes. Television was here when Adam was here. Television was here when Elijah sat on Mount Carmel. Television was here when Jesus of Nazareth walked the shores of Galilee. But you're just now discovering it. Yes. They wouldn't have believed it back there. You'd have been crazy to have said something like it. But now it's become a reality. Amen. And so is it that Christ is here. The angels of God are here. Amen. And someday, in the great millennium to come, it'll be just more real than television or anything else because they are here. Amen. He reveals Himself in His great form of what He claimed as He immorphosed Himself into His servants. And it proves Himself. Now here He is in the form of spirit. And then He comes in the form of in Marphid. He appeared to Abraham in Marphid. When Abraham was returning from the slaughter of the kings, here come Melchizedek. Talk to him. The other day in the Tucson paper, I was reading an article that where there was a woman driving down the road, I believe about 40, 50 miles an hour, and she hit an old man with an overcoat on. She screamed and stopped her car, threw him up in the air, right out in the plain desert. And she run back to find him, and he wasn't there. So what did she do? Some people behind her saw it happen. Saw the old man fly up in the air and his overcoat turning. So they run back to find out. They couldn't find the man anywhere. They called the police force. The police come out to examine the place. There's nobody there. Well, each one of them testified the car chugged, hit the man, he went up in the air, and everybody saw it. Witnesses and 2 or 3 carloads of them. They've seen it happen. Come to find out, 5 years ago, there was an old man with an overcoat on hit and killed on the same spot. When you leave here, you're not dead. You've got to come back even if you're a sinner and be judged according to the deeds done in the body. If this earthly tabernacle is dissolved, we have one waiting. In Marphid. That's the Word. Now, God, in this stage of His creation, later formed into flesh Jesus. From what? From the great beginning Spirit. Then came down to be the Word, bringing itself out. The Word doesn't yet make itself. It just spoke out in Marphid. Later, He becomes flesh, Jesus, mortal, to taste death for all us sinners. When Abraham met Him, he was Melchizedek. He unfolds here what all the attributes will do.